The protagonist of the story moves to a new city in hopes of living a better life, moving past her previous trauma, adopting a new name to completely forget about her past and build new memories. Unlucky for the protagonist, however, she moves into one of the cities that has been having multiple disappearances recently, placing the protagonist in the middle of it all, confronting the killer being a familiar face from her past. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator. If you have any game suggestions or theories, make sure to send them my way on my Twitter or subreddit. Keep in mind that this video will have spoilers as always, and with that said, let's begin. The protagonist of the game, who goes by an alias in my playthrough being R, leaves her hometown to a new place intending to start fresh and have a different life than before. Arriving at the new town, before crashing at her new apartment, she decides to go shopping, hoping that the shops would be open at this late. First going to the grocery store to get some milk, I get bashed for choosing the name R, being told it's been a crime committed against me for being named something like that. Wiping my tears gently and getting the last remaining carton of milk, the shop assistant, Noel, informs the protagonist to be careful as there have been many disappearances recently, which makes the protagonist realize how unlucky she is to be present in one of the only towns that has a psychopath on a loose, especially after trying to start fresh and have a better life than before. After a brief discussion with a police officer called Ruben, R continues down the path, finding a random music box which reminds her of her mother, who loved her dearly, being one of the only good memories R has. After visiting the body shop to buy a shampoo, R meets Aggie, who also warns her about the disappearances not long ago, being creeped on by a stranger staring at her through the other side of the shop's window. Moving on to the toy store known as Timmy's Toys, R meets an older man who tells her not to worry about what the people have been saying about a killer being on the loose, as it's a way they try to scare away newcomers from the town. The protagonist, not knowing any better, thanks Timmy and takes the stuff she needed, heading to the next place to tick off items in her shopping list. After walking for some time, R stumbles upon a rose flower which makes her have some flashbacks of her mother's death, who died at a young age of 36 only, with the protagonist missing care every day till today. After buying some printer papers, R goes into the built area surrounded by buildings when she sees a person from the distance peeking at her before disappearing behind the building, not to be seen again. R, starting to feel uneasy, decides to shake off this encounter and quickly finish her shopping list to get to her apartment in one piece. On her way to the florist to buy some flowers for her new apartment, which seems to be completely unnecessary at this time of night, she observes a mysterious truck driving off as soon as she approaches it, as if the truck has been following her and observing her every move. Subsequently, knocking on the florist's door, a scared owner shouts through the door asking whoever is there to leave her family alone, which displays how they were possibly harassed by the person who has been killing or kidnapping all the missing people. Despite R's relentless efforts to explain she's not here to harm them and simply wants flowers, the owner doesn't open the door, instructing her to just pick a flower from outside. That's when rain starts pouring heavily, with only one last item left in the shopping list to visit: the butchery. That's when a stranger pulls over, asking her to hop in and evade the rain. As she accepts this offer and gets in the car, she's relieved to see a familiar face, no one other than Ruben, the police officer. After some time, she gets dropped at the butchery when R notices the same truck that drove off following them and pulling over close to the butchery. The protagonist, not wanting her fear and paranoia get the best of her, she decides to quickly go to the butchery and get what she needs and leave as quick as possible. As she starts looking around and asking the butcher for his recommendation, the lights suddenly go off, confusing the owner as this is unusual. Lucas, the butcher, asks R for a favor to go down to the storage and change the fuses in the fuse box, and in return he would give her some free product. As the protagonist agrees, she finds an empty bottle of beer in the storage, which reminds her of the reason that she moved here to begin with. It's shown that the protagonist's father was alcoholic and abusive, who indirectly caused the death of the mother, who couldn't take his abuse any longer. This made the protagonist make a critical decision to put her past life behind her and move on, even choosing a different name to completely disassociate herself from his drunken, horrible father, who only became worse and blamed the protagonist non-stop after the mother's death. The protagonist reveals that her real name is Claire, and she started hating this name as she hated the way her father called her that name. As Claire goes up to inform Lucas about fixing the lights, she comes to the harrowing scene of Lucas being killed, which ultimately proves that there is a killer on the loose and the townsfolk were actually being honest. Claire frantically leaves the butchery and tries to call the police, but notices the lines are cut off, with the killer having had thought about that beforehand. The protagonist quickly finds a place to hide as she hears footsteps approaching her when she hears the presumable killer leave the area, which makes Claire run with all her might to a building to get across the block in order to take a shortcut. To her horror, she finds a number of employees who moved to the city to work at this building, lying motionless in a pile, seemingly all having been killed by the psychopath on the loose. Claire, in a panic, subsequently navigates her way back to her car, which was parked not too far away from a gas station, where she speaks to the convenience store clerk about the killer, who at first doesn't believe her, but after seeing the killer peek through the window, he calls the cops and provides Claire with free gas to seek safety. As Claire in a rush takes a fuel can and fills it up, she rushes to her car, noticing Ruben, the police officer she got acquainted with, being killed next to his own car, making the town very unsafe at this moment, with the convenience store's clerk's fate being left up to speculation, as the police he probably called was Ruben. As Claire is too scared to walk back, she quickly refills her car and drives off, which starts slowing down after some time, noticing her tires were slashed with a knife. Being left with no other choice and not being too far from her apartment, she decides to abandon her car and run the rest of the way. After a brief run, Claire manages to get into her apartment, making sure she locks her door securely, falling to her knees and starting to catch her breath from the horrors that she just faced. Starting to unwind, she turns on the TV, which reports on the killings, but with the authorities not having found the suspect.
Police officer Ruben has been confirmed dead. He was earlier this evening found by the gas station near Community Park with 3 stab wounds in the chest and 2 by the neck. The police have searched the area but have not found any more evidence to who could be the murderer.
Still feeling uneasy yet relieved that she's safe and the authorities are on the lookout, Claire starts to feel at home, taking a shower to relax. This reveals that the convenience store's clerk possibly survived reporting on the psychopath and the killings, which made the authorities look for the killer, ending up as a breaking news on the TV. After some time intending to head to bed, she hears the door being knocked, which makes her think of the worst possible scenario, as who would be knocking at her door this late at night. As she peeks through the peephole, not seeing anyone, she turns around to see Timmy from the toy store being present in her house, who addresses Claire with disgust, saying that she's just like her mother, which reveals that Timmy has been the killer all along, hence why he dismissed everyone's claims of a killer being in the town. And the horrifying aspect of it all is that he has been Claire's father, whom she didn't recognize. After the horrible things the father did to Claire's mother, leading to her death, Claire got most of the abuse after that, which made her take the father's car and run away. The father, hating himself and everyone else, started doing drugs and drink heavily, making him look like a complete different person, being older and losing his youth. Claire, on the other hand, took therapy for years and started to feel happier and move on from the past trauma. As she decides to move to a new town, she realizes that her father moved there before her coincidentally, who still had the hate burning within him, taking out his stress on other people, hence why so many people were reported missing. By the sounds of it, as Claire is the narrator explaining what happened and who the mysterious killer was, it seems as if miraculously she survives the psychopathic father and he seemingly gets arrested. But by what is seen, Timmy, or the father, attacks Claire in her apartment. So maybe he did get into a physical altercation with her, but she somehow managed to survive to tell the story of who he was and what has been happening. And that's it for the end of this video, folks. If you enjoyed it, you can stay tuned for more by hitting on the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your host, Star. Until the next time, have a fantastic day.